Hey all, welcome to another episode. I am so thrilled for our guest today. She is a personal friend of mine. We connected through health and wellness space, just sort of stumbled upon each other and connected, and she's absolutely amazing. Her name is Alanna. She has the Moms Working Overtime podcast, which we will definitely talk about as well. She is a mom to two littles, so has younger kiddos than myself, and I think we're going to have a great time touching on all things, business aspect, knowing when to leave a career, start a new one, how to balance the whole mom life, husband and wife life, personal time, all of the things that I think are going to bring you all kinds of knowledge, tips, tricks, hacks, and just simple action points. So I'm excited to have her on here and can't wait for you guys to pull out some amazing tidbits from this episode. All right, guys, here she is, Miss Alanna. I'm so excited to have you here.
I'm so
Um,
happy to be here.
Yes, it was so fun. So last week she had me on her show and I was like, well, I want you on mine too. So here we are doing it again. I'm sure we'll touch on some similar stuff that we talked about last week, but I definitely want to go into some more stuff specific to you because I think, the fact that you're at a different point in motherhood, you're in a different point in owning your own business and, all the things, and you've been through different things. It's just going to be such a great, well-rounded, opportunity. So I will let you start though. Like, who are you? Where are you from? Tell everybody about you.
Absolutely. So, hi everyone. My name is Alanna. I'm from Southeast Missouri. I'm a mom of two now, two under a year and a half. So, pray for us. We don't sleep, but that's okay. My husband's name is Dylan, and we basically moved back to our hometown, I guess a couple years ago now, just to really focus on family. We've got our kids by the grandparents, which they are so happy about. And we've both just moved to jobs that allow us to focus on our kids and lean into this parenthood stage that is all consuming, as we all know, and just making the most of it.
Yes, yes. And so for many of us, right, I have a huge following of like farm hers kind of thing.
Yes,
So Elena grew up on a farm as well. They don't currently live on one, but she understands that lifestyle too. So she's going to have all kinds of fire to
100%.
bring. Um,
Absolutely.
yes, yes. So I guess like we're going to dive kind of in, deep right away because I think that's what's helpful. And I think something that I have a lot of people working through right now is a potential career shift. And I personally made a career shift back in 2020, walked away from a full-time job with incredible benefits,
Yeah.
to launch my own career, my own business, and I was in control, and damn, that's scary. And I know you did something similar. So I think the first thing is like tell people what you do now and
Mhm.
how did you know it was time to make a career shift?
So I primarily, it's hard to, Nikki, how do you describe what you do? Because do you ever struggle with this? I struggle with this question sometimes. I feel like I work in the women's health space and I focus on a lot of different areas of motherhood. My business, Moms Working Overtime, is specific to women that are preparing for motherhood, going through infertility, going through pregnancy, maybe they're recently postpartum or in any stage of motherhood thereafter. And so I focus on any area of motherhood that women struggle with, primarily focusing on wellness, which is where Nikki and I connect because it just plays a role in so many other areas of your life. And so my business tends to go more heavily in the direction of just wellness coaching and working with women one on one on that so they can show up better in their motherhood role. Because when we feel better about ourselves, then we can do better for our families. And so, in really ending up here, it's hard to say, okay, so when did I know it was time for a shift? I think that the moment you hold that first baby in your arms, everything changes. You have this vision for your life. And I did too. I had this vision for my life before we had our son, where, we were just going to fit him in. And I laugh at myself thinking about that now, thinking that I was just going to move him in the open space of my life. But the second that you hold that baby, all your priorities that you have in this perfect little list just get completely jumbled. And that's what I experienced. They handed me that baby, and I was like, whoa, everything I thought was so important just is not that important anymore.
Oh my God, that's so true. And I think that that's something that like, it's a different reason for everybody, and I love that that is yours. It's so genuine and so honest. I know like when I left mine, it wasn't to, parent better. I can be honest about that. It was because I absolutely despised my job.
Yeah.
And I loved my
Mental
new
health.
opportunity, right? Like it was definitely a mental health situation. Um, And I know that I have a lot of others, like specifically a lot of teachers right now that are really going through a struggle point. It's not
Mhm.
that they have littles at home. I mean, they have kids, but they vary in age, but they're really struggling to know, like, should we leave this career path and choose something different? And, I know that your reasoning was, for your kiddos and to be able to lean into parenthood and motherhood. What would you have to say to somebody who's maybe in that situation? Do you have 2 cents on that?
Oh, absolutely. Actually, so before I worked in my most recent career, I was in healthcare. So I have my master's in occupational therapy. Completely irrelevant, not completely irrelevant, but pretty irrelevant to what I do now. But I was working in healthcare when everything hit the fan. We all know what I'm talking about. And I was in that state that I think a lot of teachers are in, a lot of healthcare workers are in still, where it was like, man, I don't know how much longer I can do this. Is this worth the price I'm paying for my mental health and, just constantly being so stressed and so exhausted for getting my paycheck? Is this really worth it? And I debated on that for a long time in healthcare before making a jump into something scary. And here's the thing, I've made a lot of scary, crazy decisions in my life. My family is getting used to it at this point, but ultimately it always ended up better. And so I tell you, like, if it feels scary and if it feels uncertain, maybe that's exactly what you need. And I needed to hear that. And so hopefully that's helpful for someone who's listening that, if it's weighing on your heart, you probably need to go after it.
Oh, I love the way you put that. That's so good. I mean, there's so many times like, like we talked about last week on the podcast, like there's no amount of money or accomplishments you can
Mhm,
get that's going to make you feel good enough. And we were, referencing motherhood and such, but
mhm,
even just like everyday life, like
mhm.
yes, there's certain things that we want to do and certain things we want to have, but is putting your life through that much stress and anguish every single day worth it for the fancy pair of shoes that you
Mhm.
want, right? Like, is
Yep.
that really important? It's not. So,
No, give me my simple life and my freedom.
yes, yes, even though we're still crazy and sleep deprived, it's totally fine.
Yes, all the things. On our own terms though, that's important.
Yes, it is on our own terms. Okay, so I love that. I know we kind of touched on it, but the second part of the question that I had was, what was your process for deciding when to make this current switch? I know that you had your son, you held him in your arms, you're like, ooh, priorities just totally
Mhm.
switched up on me. What did your process look like for that? I know that you didn't just like jump, were you weighing options? How did that look?
So I've been asked this question before, and it's hard to say because there wasn't a moment and I didn't have a timeline. And what I will say, a pivoting point in my experience. So my son was born in 2022. I didn't actually make the jump until August of 2023. So he was almost a year old at this point when I finally did it. So keep that in mind for anyone listening. Like I sat on this for a year and just feeling this pull. But there was a podcast. It was an Ed Milet podcast. He did an interview with Amy Porterfield. Amazing. When I tell you I listened to it 50 times, like, Ed, you're welcome, 50 downloads just from me for one episode because I connected with it so strongly. And in this episode, Amy talks about how she worked for Tony Robbins and that he was an incredible boss. She had incredible opportunities there, but it just didn't feel right. And something was constantly pulling her. And she talked about how, look, you either work for someone else's dream or you chase your own. And ultimately, that's what the decision that each of us make every single day is, am I going to work for someone else's dream or am I going to start chasing my own? And I sat on that. And what I started to do is figure out what my dream was. I did a ton of brain dumping. It's actually funny, I still have those pages where I would just write down, "What the heck do you want? What do you want in your life? What do you want for your kids? What do you want in your career? What do you want your marriage to look like? Where do you wanna live?" I dug into every question about what the heck does my future look like, and I would just brain dump, and what eventually happened, and there wasn't a like I said, I never had a deadline or a turning point, but I started to look around me and realize that what I brain dumped on that page, no one had. So what was I working towards? If I worked up, if I worked into new positions or got promotions or got flex time built into my schedule, no one that I looked at in the company had what I wanted. So what was I doing? And that was hard for me. That was a harsh realization for me to be like, you can work as hard as you want, you can get recognized as much as you want, get paid as much as you want, but you're still never going to get that.
Mhm.
And so when I started to really sit with that, I started to pray on it. I'm a very faith-filled person, so I started to pray on it. And what happened is there was a week, I'll never forget it. It was a conversation that happened on a Friday when I felt like God slapped me in the face and said, "It's time to go." And in that conversation, I was able to reach peace with what I wanted versus where my career was heading, and just being able to say, "Hey, I love you, I appreciate you, but this ain't for me anymore." And it's a breath of fresh air when you finally say that. Nikki, I'm sure you felt this too when you, like, established your boundaries finally.
Yes.
It was just that moment where I feel like all things aligned. That vision I had, the prayers I'd been saying, and the situation I was in, it was just, "Hey, it's time."
Oh my God. I literally just got chills and a couple of tears in my eyes. I'm not even lying. Like, I totally relate to it. Like that slap in the face, the breath of fresh air when you're finally able to honestly say it and believe it.
Mhm, mhm.
It's amazing. And scary. But
Terrifying.
it's
It's not supposed
terrifying.
to feel 100% right.
No, you're like, "Oh God, was that the right choice? Here we go, because 'cause we're not going
Yep.
back."
I remember my husband and I spent that whole because, like I said, the conversation happened on a Friday. We spent the whole weekend and we were like, "What are we doing?"
I don't know, right? Got this dream, we're gonna try and build it
Yeah.
because there's no other option. I keep
Yep.
telling myself, I'm like, "You know what? If crap hits the fan, I know I can work really hard and
Yes.
make it work because we've done it before and I know that's fine." So that's just sort of like what I always tell myself in the back of the head is like, "Yes, I can do this. It's not gonna come down to that, but I do have other options." So
Yes.
and it won't be to go back to my other job, that's for sure. Okay, so I think that something else that I think is really hard to accept, and I think for you and me, it's a little bit easier at this point after having that slap in the face and breath of fresh air and setting that boundary and stuff. But I think a lot of people's reservations with making a big change like that to their life, to their career, to their future path is how do you handle the mentality aspect of what others may have thought of you leaving in a position like that?
It's so similar to motherhood, honestly. We all struggle with comparison, and I really think we're harder on ourselves than other people are on us. We just, like, create these opinions that we think people have about us in my I that's how I feel anyways. And
Mhm.
so I think it's really similar to, like, watching someone on social media and thinking, "Man, if I don't do those exact things in my mom role, like, I'm failing. Everyone's gonna think I'm failing because 'cause I'm not that." And it was hard for me at first, but I think that what brought me a level of acceptance of anyone else's opinion is that people's opinions come from their own experiences, their own perspectives. And so if they don't see it the same way I do, that's okay. But that's only because they haven't been through what I've been through, or they're not in my shoes with my current responsibilities, my current role that I'm in. And specifically, obviously, that's being a mom. That was my main driving force behind why I left my career so I could build a better life that allowed me to show up how I wanted to show up as a mom. Because I think that's important too. I work with a lot of moms one on one who tell me, I love my career. I am the best mom because of my career and that time that I get to pour into that. And so I want to say, like, how you show up as a mom is something that you decide and you define. And it doesn't mean that someone who works a career and works 60 hours a week is a different, better or worse mom than I am. But where how I wanted to show up and the experiences that I've had are were the driving force behind that decision. And so I think that if anyone doesn't understand a decision you make in your life, it's simply because they're looking through a different lens. And I even say this in coaching. I personally think that people who are parents shouldn't be coached or led by people that aren't parents
Mhm.
because I think if you haven't experienced it, it's really hard for you to judge or make decisions or impose things on people that they have a lot more on their plate with handling little humans than someone that, gosh, when I was 22, 23, and had no kids and didn't have a husband to worry about, I would work 150 hours a week. Like, let's go, what do you need from me? But obviously all of that changes, and I think that's hard for people to understand when they're not in your shoes, because even leaving my career, I would say the ones that were most understanding are also parents and said,
Mhm.
like, "I get it. I get it. I get why you're making that decision. Like, you go, girl. I'm so proud of you. Your kids are so lucky." Like, there was just this sense of, mutual understanding. But I try and find acceptance in the fact that someday those who don't understand will likely reach this point in life and they'll look back and they'll get it.
Yeah. Yeah, and if they don't get it, then they weren't meant to.
Mhm. And that's
And
okay.
yeah, that's fine. Not everybody has to agree or understand. The
Mhm.
only thing that matters is that you understand and you
Yep.
feel better. That's it.
Yep.
So, I think that's a huge piece too. Um, Okay, so switching into mom life a little bit because I love this. I do have a lot of like newer moms. I have a lot of people that have like older kids and they have newborns. So they have like this big wide
Yeah.
array of things going on. And so I know you'll be able to like switch into it, but I think that something that's really fun to talk about is what was the biggest surprise for you as a new mom? Like what did you expect something to be and it was completely opposite?
I thought it's just so funny now. I'm actually working through this again with a newborn and I'm trying to be better about it this time. But I thought I would be so confident when I became a mom. I just had these ideas of how I wanted to be and what my expectations for myself and how I would raise this baby, how we would raise this baby, right? You know, Dylan obviously has a say in those decisions, but I just felt so confident in pregnancy and then the baby came and I feel like I lost my voice a little bit. And I know a lot of new moms struggle with this. I let myself not necessarily get walked all over, but just things that maybe I wasn't so comfortable with, things that made me really anxious or made me question myself in a way that I shouldn't have been questioning myself. I didn't expect that. I really expected that I would feel more confident. And so if there is a new mom listening who's struggling with that uncertainty or like learning to say no, neither of us were good at this until recently,
Ooh.
but learning to say no and just standing by what you believe in your motherhood role, it could be different than someone else's, just like the previous question. It doesn't make one mom better than the other, but I think I really had to learn that confidence on the fly, whereas I thought I would have it right away as soon as we had our first.
Yeah, I love that you went into it expecting confidence. I'm sad to know that you don't like necessarily inherently have it like you thought you would. But I
Mhm.
was the opposite. I went into pregnancy and into delivery like, what is going on? Did didn't know things moved like that. Um, so like I did not have that. But I love that you're finding it again. And I do think that it's totally true. You do lose your voice a little bit. You have to become now not even just an advocate for you, but an advocate for little
Mhm.
humans. And not all every single doctor is right. And you have to go with your gut on like who to choose and who has the inputs and the exposure to your children. And it gets scary because everybody has an opinion and they're all going to give it to you, whether you ask for it or not. So
Mhm.
I think being willing in any situation, especially motherhood, but in any situation to put your foot down and really set a boundary is going to be really, really beneficial.
Mhm. And I was talking about this to my clients. Set a boundary without saying sorry. Do you know how
Yes.
often we explain our boundary or we say our no and then we say, I'm sorry? I
Yeah.
mean, I know I'm guilty of it, and a lot of my clients, I've been calling them out on it. It's like, "N no, period, is enough."
Hmm. Yeah, you don't have to go into a paragraph explanation. It's
Yeah.
totally fine. I totally get that. And being I like to say past people pleaser. God knows that still rears its
In
ugly
recovery.
face. I like still in recovery, constant. But I know that that's something that totally sparks it too. It's like I feel like I'm disappointing someone, so when I say no, I have to give this big explanation.
Mhm,
No is fine.
mhm,
And I think if people can't accept that, then that's their problem.
mhm.
So, one of those boundaries
Absolutely.
for sure. Oh, for sure. So what has been your biggest challenge with motherhood and career and balancing it all so far?
It actually perfectly falls in line with our entire conversation. I'll call myself a recovering workaholic and people pleaser, so I'm with you on that, but I'm a recovering workaholic, and I'm not perfect. I haven't mastered this by any means. I mean, I was working way too late last night, but motherhood has challenged me that I can't not that I can't, but truly, you can't do it all and be it all at the same time.
Mhm.
And I struggled with that at first because like I said, I thought I would have kids and just fit them into my current schedule, which I've always worked way too many hours, and that was gonna run me into the ground. You know, even still with starting my business, I am turned on 18 to 20 hours a day probably. Our daughter doesn't sleep, so I don't sleep. But I make up work hours early in the morning or late at night, and then I'm trying to show up as a mom. And so I think that's a lot of people can relate to that you just inevitably run yourself into the ground. But what motherhood has challenged me to do is to fix my time management, to say more no's, like we were talking about, so that I can focus on showing up best for them and really just being present for them. So sometimes this requires me to feel like I'm dropping a ball in one area or another. Now, Is it truly dropping a ball from the perspective of someone else? Probably not. But for us, we're so critical on ourselves. And so I have to accept the fact that it's going to feel like I'm dropping a ball every once in a while and I may have to ask for help, which I'm really terrible at, by the way. But those have been challenges for me. And I'm trying to see them as like a personal growth journey and not, man, this is such a pain in my butt, but just really seeing it as a challenge to get better so that I can show up better because that's why I came here in the first place.
Oh my gosh. I think time management is such a big piece, and that's a big piece for anybody in any phase of life. Like time management is
Yes.
so damn hard. We were just talking before we started to record, like I literally have 8 p.m. I'm gonna probably switch it to 7:30 now actually, but at like 8 p.m. my app shut off. If I try to open one, it says no, you're not, it says no. And there's no
It's like
explanation.
parental control for yourself.
Pretty much, exactly. And I'm like, I need to stop scrolling aimlessly because here's what happens to it. And I was talking to one of my clients about this the other day, and I know that you'll relate, is like setting this boundary with yourself. She said, I scroll and then
Mhm.
I find myself extra stressed out because I'm scrolling. It's not even that I'm reading about stressful things, I'm just overstimulated. And then I get hungry and I
Mhm.
want to stress eat and like fill that void. And I was super proud of her because she's like, I knew that that's what I was doing. So I shut off my phone, I wouldn't drink water, and I went to bed and like read a book.
Yep.
Much better, right? And that wasn't how she responded 2 months ago. But I see that's something that's so important. Set that boundary so that you can actually have priorities and have them match what you say that you're going to
Mhm.
do. So it's huge. I think maybe setting your app to setting your phone to nap time would be good
Oh,
too.
I should. Like I said, recovering workaholic. That still gives me anxiety to think about turning off at 8 o'clock, but I
Oh,
totally
trust
get it.
me. I know. I know. I made a huge switch just in the past couple of months. I used to do a bunch of nighttime calls because, like
Mhm.
you, our clients often work during the day. So it's
Yep.
really hard for them to be able to join a call or information or anything unless it's at night. Let me
Mhm.
tell you, I am a much different person from 4 a.m. to 2 p.m. than I am at like 6:30 on.
Yes.
Like I am not able. I used to be half asleep on the couch and I come out here for 7:30 calls. And I'm like,
Oh my gosh.
waking myself up. And I just think like I took out all those evening calls and I gave them the explanation because they're my clients. They deserve that much. But
Mhm.
I was like, I can't do it anymore. I need to focus on the kids. And thank God because we have literally a sport every single
Yes,
night.
you are in that season of motherhood. Like I said, we talked about this taxi cab season.
Oh my God. I live out of a cooler. Like tonight, we don't necessarily have a sport that we need to go to, but it's going to become horseback riding lessons soon. And we're talking about going as a family over to the gym and practicing anyway, because this is what we do
Yep.
because we're crazy. So I just live out of a cooler and I just live out of the car. It's fine. Um, but like I used to do calls in the car and I used to do so it just doesn't make sense anymore.
Mhm.
So I think just having that boundary set and truly living up to it is
Mhm.
something that's really, really important.
Yes. Nikki, you'd be proud of me. I had a client discovery call a couple weeks ago. Someone was looking into working with me, and something I personally do, a boundary that I've made in my business is my clients get weekly check-ins that are through the app, but they are not a call. I don't do weekly calls with every single one-on-one client that I have. And, that was something she said is really important to her. She wanted someone that she was going to be able to do a weekly call with and touch base over the phone. And I said, I'm sorry, I don't do that. Old me would have said, you know what, if that's what you need, I'll make it work. We'll do a weekly call, make sure you're taken care of, whatever. Because people please, right? People please,
Mhm.
work, work, work. And it was hard for me, but I was so proud to say, I'm sorry, I don't provide that, and this is why. My most important, the most important thing in my business is that if my kid is sick tomorrow, I don't have to move 12 calls. I
Mhm.
just move my check-ins, do my work while he's sitting in my lap. Like I make things happen and still get to show up for my kids, and that's why I built my business. So I'm sorry, I won't be able to provide that to you. And it took a lot to say that. And I didn't get the client, but that's okay because I stuck by my standards and,
Mhm.
they're important to me for a reason. And I told my husband afterwards, I was like, you'll never believe what I did.
I'm so proud of you. I really, really am because I totally relate to that. And you're like, even in this world where things are just so hard and so crazy, and you have the opportunity to have, and I don't want to put a money sign on our clients, right? But
Mhm.
it's true. They are our income and how we do provide for our families. And, you know, do I bend the rules on just this one to secure myself a little bit more?
Yeah.
No, stop doing that.
Yep.
It's so hard, but I'm so proud of you for
It
following
was a
through.
win.
So proud of you. So proud of you. Okay, so we've talked about Dylan a lot. But I want to talk about relationships and marriages and stuff a little bit more. We did touch on this briefly last week on your call, which it
Mhm.
was a total surprise that we talked about it, but I think it's really important. Because in motherhood, in this phase of life where we're like living out of cars to, at any point really throughout life, you have these different like phases in marriage and stuff.
Mhm.
And I know that we've discussed different things as far as that goes, but how do you keep your relationship and your marriage alive when your littles are literally always there?
Mhm. Dylan and I, this is something I honestly learned from him. I was not a homebody when I met my husband, and he would probably laugh about it. Like, looking back, I can't even believe that he continued to pursue me because I wanted to be out and doing things all the time. He wanted to be home. But what he's taught me and what we've really worked on in our relationship is romanticizing the small things. So, we can sit on the couch and share a glass of wine and watch, like, we were watching all those sports documentaries on Netflix together. I can't stand reality TV, so it drives me crazy. But we found those really interesting. So we would get a glass of wine, we would watch an episode together and just chat and like found the romanticized that small moment on the couch together. And that just felt like a big date night for us. Kids were in bed, things were quiet, which never happens. So that was amazing. But even other things like, I was laughing last night because we were, thinking about this episode and talking about what we were going to discuss. Dylan and I sit down every night and we watch Wheel of Fortune together. This makes us sound so old, but just hang tight. We're very competitive, okay? And so we sit down, that we have a TV in our playroom and Carter plays, Lena's in one of our laps, and we compete to see who can solve the most puzzles. And we're like yelling back and forth at each other, and Carter thinks it's hilarious. He's running around laughing. And it's just something we do every single night that just fills my cup. And it's finding those simple things that Dylan and I get to connect, but hey, the kids are there. They're always there, and we're still able to keep the romance in our relationship alive. And then lastly too, something that I think is really important is, and this isn't any relationship, this isn't just parenthood, is we say thank you a lot. We probably say thank you more than is necessary, but it could be something as simple as, hey, thanks for getting up for that 2 a.m. wake up and just bringing her to me. Thank you for setting out that glass of water in the morning or setting out my vitamins, little things like that. We say thank you. We overuse that term because I think it's so important in the trenches of any part of your relationship. If you're in a hard part of your relationship, appreciation goes a long way. And this really ties into, Nikki, the career thing we were talking about. You don't have to be paid the most. You don't have to have the best health benefits or get that promotion, but appreciation goes a really, really long way. And so we use that to kind of keep things strong in our marriage.
Oh, I love it. I love it. Wheel of Fortune. That is actually one of my kids' favorite shows. That and Family Feud. I
Yes.
don't know why we have all the game shows on. And then, you know,
I don't know. We're 85 years old,
yeah.
apparently.
Well, and then Harvey says something that's a sexual innuendo, and she's like, "What's that?" I'm like, "That- Don't worry about that one. You don't need to worry about that
Yep.
one." Crap. But like, I don't know, but we watch all that crap too. It's either that or Gordon Ramsay, whatever.
Yeah.
My kids are not watching kid appropriate shows. It's totally
I
fine.
can totally relate to that. Cooking shows or game shows.
But I do think that it's really important, right? You're in this like different phase of life where your kids, they don't typically go to bed, but when they do, you guys get to
Mhm.
enjoy a glass of wine together and chit chat, and that's your date, right? Rob and I
Mhm.
do stuff that's similar. Now, our kids are a little bit older, but
Mhm.
we went through our rocky times where he's like, hey, we aren't roommates, right? Like, yep, yep, we need 15 minutes.
Yeah, just 15.
15. 15.
Lock the door.
At which point he put a lock on the door, which whatever, we don't have to go into that. But like, I just think it's like really, really important to be totally honest about that. Like last or this week, we had all of our craziness with like practices starting up, right? So we had basketball start for each kid this week. One's in a tournament league south, one's in a tournament league north. And I have to like, they get home, I get them changed, I get them a snack, and I get one there, and then I get one there. And he walks in, and we have like 5 minutes of passing. And he's like, hey, and he gives me a big hug. He's like, this might be the last time we see each other for a while. He's like, but I think that it's just really important to take, like you said, those smaller gestures, those small
Mhm.
things. And he's Dylan's and time, right? That's his thing, quality time.
Yes,
Okay.
yes,
Yes.
which I've
Where
been terrible at in the past.
right? Whereas like Rob's kind of an onion. I feel like he's a little bit of everything, but thank God he doesn't listen to these podcasts. But anyway, so I feel like he's, an action type guy. Like it's your actions that are always going to speak louder than
Mhm.
your words. And something that I have learned over the years of us being together is like, just take the little actions. What is something I can do to make
Mhm.
life a little bit easier for him, which I know is what you are too. And
Yes.
so I love that. So I'm like, okay, I know his routine. I know what he wants. Like, hey, we're out of mayo and he wants mayo. I can swing by and grab some flippin'
Yep.
mayo on my way home from something. I got it. Look, hey, mayo and love. That is love.
That
And
is love. Yeah,
that
it
is,
really
mayo is
is.
love. And so like it's those little things. But then, I also think it's something also like we're super honest with each other. And if, we say something or we did something, um, and the other one wasn't expected. Like just having that super transparent, like rip off the band-aid, don't let it
Mhm,
fester, right?
mhm.
Like let's chat it out right now, real fast. We can be angry, but we can chat it out later and it'll be fine. But that way there's no like what happened. There's no
Yes.
you said, she said, whatever, because it's just like you're just super honest with each other and you're the only ones that need to worry about that. So I just love that you guys have a similar style to it and just wanted to bring that into this.
Yes. Communication and showing love through action, I think is really what it comes down to. Because even in the trenches of where we're at now, we always joke every night. Our daughter has a witching hour that is like 4 hours long every single night. And so we take turns, and we always joke it's the look in your eye. There's sometimes he'll be holding her and taking the crying shift, and I'll see the look in his eye, and I'm like, "You there?" And he's like, "I'm there," and I'll take her. And I'll handle the crying and try and calm her down until he's like, that look in your eye, you need me to take her back? And
Yes.
it really is. It's just that openness and communication. Look, every season is not going to be easy, and parenthood is a sacrifice. It's amazing. I love it. I wouldn't trade it for the world. Give me all the babies. I'm gonna keep going until I get cut off, but it is still a sacrifice.
Yes. Oh, sacrifice for sure. Like we joke all the time. We're like, we'd be flipping rich
Yeah.
if we didn't have kids, right? Like farm be paid off. We'd have brand new vehicles. We could vacation wherever we wanted. But
Yep.
instead, we invest thousands into whatever they want to do. And it's okay.
And
But
it's
let's be
okay.
honest too, right? Like your career wouldn't be what it is if you weren't a mom.
Hmm.
Mine wouldn't be either. So
Yeah.
they're a big reason for why we're here. And
The
I have to
connections
thank
that
them
now
for
we
that.
can make.
Yeah. I have to
Hmm.
thank them for that because they made us who we are. And I love that. So,
Yes.
okay, so moving past marriage. So I mean kind of. So what are your biggest goals for business, for family, and for yourself? I think these are really important because seeing
Hmm.
how different people have their goals set up for themselves, I think helps people realize that their goals can be bigger, they can be more specific, and they don't have to be just one-sided.
Hmm.
Would
So let's start with business. I'll
Okay.
go in order, try and keep my thoughts organized here. When it comes to my business, my main focus in starting this and in every single facet of my business, because I'm a little bit all over the place, is that moms know every single day that they're doing an amazing job. Because that I think when you can say that and believe that as a mom, it changes your entire experience and it changes the person that your kids get as their mom. It completely changes their experience when mom believes she's doing an amazing job. And so whether it's someone that's working with me one-on-one wellness coaching so they can show up better and feel like they're doing a good job, or they're listening to the podcast, or they're part of the community bouncing ideas off other moms. I just want more moms to feel confident that they're doing an amazing job. And on my end of things, another area I'm really passionate, I actually just had a couple conversations this morning, is I want to provide opportunities for other moms to build a career that can be about their family. It's why I'm here, and so I wanna give it to other moms. I know we talked about this last week, but just with going through the hiring process, one of the first statements in my hiring contract is that you are in control of your time, and if your child is sick or you have a class party or a sporting event to go to, then that will be top priority, and I will never intervene with that. You get your work done, I don't care. And I wanna I want to grow the business simply to provide that opportunity to more moms, and that drives me. I'm an acts of service person, like we just talked about. And so my service to other people is what fills my cup. And being able to do that is seriously one of the driving forces in growing the business. So that's business sector, and things are crazy and stressful. You know exactly how all that goes. So, it's the best kind of stress. But when it comes to family, and I know we share a lot of these beliefs as well. I really just want to go back to our roots when it comes to the family dynamic, the family unit, being raised on a farm. Like, I want my kids to have chores. I want them to be involved. I want them to be outside. I want them to build responsibility as they grow. I want us to sit down for dinner as often as possible, right? Within 1,000 extracurriculars that'll come as they get bigger. You're in the trenches of that stage.
Yes.
But I really am focusing on with our family. We have goals, obviously. We bought land. We want to build a house soon. We want to have those tangible dreams, those materialistic dreams, but I try and center myself often like, no, I'm really just here to make sure I raise good humans. And so with our family, I'm trying to focus on our values and how to instill our values in them. And I know I already brought up Ed one. I love Ed Milet.
I do
And
too.
he has a quote that who children become is caught, not taught. We can say things over and over, be a good human, be nice to your friends, make sure you pray and all these things, eat healthy food. But if they don't catch that from us, if they don't see us, witness us living that lifestyle, then, what are we really doing? And so I try and live by that. That's one of the big family goals is that my children catch being a good human, not just, I teach them how to be a good human. And then myself. Oh my gosh, as moms, we always put ourselves last. I just really don't want to get complacent. It was my biggest fear when I left my career. I talk to a lot less adults now. I really just hang out with little humans most of the day. And so I just don't want to get complacent. I don't want to get so comfortable that I stop challenging myself. And, this is where whether it's intellectually and I'm getting a new certification or taking some classes, pushing myself physically, staying strong in my faith, like I really am just trying to keep the standard high for myself and continuing to grow even though there's really no one around here to hold me accountable. Like my 1.5-year-old isn't going to call me out whether I eat the healthy meal or the meal that trashes my diet. But I think that's my biggest focus is no matter what it means for me, just don't get complacent. Just keep working, keep challenging.
I love all those. Okay. So starting with business, I really would want to hone in on the fact, or on all your goals, honestly, honing in on the fact that you have very specific pieces.
Mhm.
And not all of them are materialistic. Not all of them are um the opposite of materialistic. I don't even know what that like,
I don't know what
right?
that would be.
I don't know what it is either, but like not all of them are things that you can physically like touch.
Mhm.
Some of them are very much like how you feel and how you live by your standards, how you live by your morals. And I love that so much. And I think that's a great example that your goals don't have to be, necessarily always black and white. I think
Smart
it's
goals.
right. Oh, it's fine, right, to have smart goals. They do
I come
apply
from
to certain
healthcare. I
things.
know all about smart goals.
Oh, I'm sure you do. Like, yes, they have their place, especially if you have like
Mhm.
a weight loss goal or a physical goal. Like, sure, okay, I get it. But
Yep.
when it comes to like your living and your happiness, there's no smart goal that approaches that. That's all about how you live by your standards. And I think it's so important for people to understand there's a different way to look at goals than just so black and white.
Mhm.
So with your business, I definitely want like you glazed over it just like I did. So how can people like find you? What can they do? What's the best way for them to come in contact with you?
Yeah, I love Instagram. I try to be super responsive on Instagram. So my personal page is Alanna Alanna dot Hellman Hellman, and then I have a handle as well that's Moms Working Overtime where I put a lot of the podcast and community stuff. And so either one they can connect with me on. But I just love talking to moms. I love talking mom stuff. So if you just want to chat or need some validation, that's what I try and be there for.
Absolutely. And her Mom's Working Overtime podcast is absolutely awesome. And it's a wide variety of stuff. Like she had like my podcast and like interview type style, but then you also have one about like baby food and stuff coming out too. Like,
Yeah, yeah, we have some fun episodes coming up. We have some really different episodes coming up, which I'm excited for, because we focus a lot on the traditional things of motherhood. So I'm grabbing some fun extras.
I love that. It's so perfect. So don't hesitate to go reach out to her. Yes, we're both in the wellness space.
Mhm.
Yes, our client pools probably overlap. It's okay. Like we
It's
want to
okay.
just help everybody. So follow her, share her podcasts, that kind of thing. Go support her because she's an excellent human herself.
Oh, I
Um,
appreciate you.
oh, I love it too. So, like we gotta help each other out.
Yes.
Um, Okay, so now your family goals, and yes, you have some tangible stuff, but also just like living by the standards and stuff.
Mhm.
And I love the whole caught not taught. I love Ed Milet too. I'm always listening to
I
his stuff.
just I love it. Yeah.
I'm gonna have to go back to listen to that one that you mentioned first with what was her name? Amy
Amy
what?
Porterfield.
Amy Porterfield. Okay, I'm gonna have to go back and
Mhm.
listen to that one because there's been so many Ed Milet podcasts where I'm like, and replay.
Yes.
But like I really love that because we also have some tangible goals ourselves, but then again, we also have family goals where like, we just want to actually spend quality time together and it doesn't
Mhm.
have to be a big lavish vacation. Do we want to go to like Turks and Caicos for a week? Yeah, yeah, we do. But is it going to happen in this phase of life? No, it's probably not.
Mhm.
Right now our big vacation is like staying in a hotel down the street for a night because they have a pool. right?
Yep.
Like, woo! And that's okay because the kids love it. And we go out to
Yeah.
dinner and it's a couple $100 instead of a couple thousand, and we can make that work better with what we're trying to accomplish.
Mhm.
So I think it's just great to see that you have both. You have both like a very like a house goal, a tangible goal. You also have standard goals. So
Mhm.
awesome. Um, with yourself, though, this is something that I think a lot of people struggle with because once again, having goals for yourself feels selfish.
Mhm.
And I love so much that you want to push yourself. You're definitely that work ethic mind, always wanting to be challenged, not get complacent. Rob often jokes if it's like the middle of winter, he's like, "Have you left the property?" And I'm like, "No, I have not
Yes.
left the
I feel
property
that.
in 3 weeks and I don't
Yep.
care." And he's like, "We need to leave the property. You need to see other
Yep.
humans." And I'm like, fine. But, I think it's just really awesome because, there's always something else that we can learn to help other people. And people always think, oh, that's it. Like I've tapped
Mhm.
out. I have now learned everything there is to learn. But just like you just said, even in your facet of learning more about how you can help more moms, whether it's baby food or, breastfeeding or, learning how to utilize time out better, whatever it is,
Mhm.
I just think that there's always more to put in there to help you be a better example for yourself, for your kids, for people that you're helping. So I just have to applaud that more than anything.
Thank you.
Yes. Okay. So in order to end thing, as I always ask, just like I told you, I always ask if there is one piece of advice or an action tip or something that you can give to somebody who is kind of in this struggle point.
Mm.
What would it be?
I would say find community. I think it's the best form of accountability and support. And, when you think parenthood, everyone always says you have a village. It takes a village. Well, not everyone has a village naturally, but you can go make a village. And I don't want that to reference just being a mom or just being a parent, but if you don't have a village, go make a village. There's really no excuses these days with Facebook groups and social media and, all these different opportunities that you have to do meetups. Put yourself out there and make sure that you have community for whatever you're going through, whatever your big goal is right now, or whatever your struggle is. Find a community that can support you on that because I think that that's the game changer is people that can help pull you through, people that you can learn from, which we just talked about this, the humility to continuously be investing in, hey, there's more I can know. You don't know it all. I guarantee you don't know it all. I don't know it all. Nikki doesn't know it all. But being able to find that community that where you're not the smartest person in the room or where you have the support that you need and being able to ask for help. And I'm saying that from a hypocritical standpoint because I'm really bad at it too, you guys. But being able to ask those people for help and admit when you're struggling, I think is just really important. And looking back, the moments that we do that, I think we come out better and stronger on the other side.
I love it. Community, community. And it doesn't have to be just one community. If you're a part of mine and you want to join Elena's, then
Mhm.
absolutely go check it out because having more support, more resources is always a good choice.
Absolutely.
Yes, yes. Awesome. Well, I can't thank you enough for being here. I know that you're in the midst of sickness in your house and everything, so I'll let you get back to that and relieve your mom. Tell her I say thank you.
I'm just so happy I could be here. I appreciate you so much.
Yes, I appreciate you too, and looking forward to getting this out there for everybody. So thank you so much.
Absolutely.
Bye, lady.
Bye.